Hi, I'm Yeong and Jian with my groupmate Khai, Xian, Ming, and Neng from ME1 in the course TEB 2132 Structured Programming and Database System. And today, I'll be presenting about the question 1 from assignment 1. First, let us synthesize the question. The question asks us to create a simple calculator where enable the user to input two input numbers. Where the first input number, it must be an even number between range 10 to 30. Then, the second number must also be an even number, but its range is not limited. Lastly, the program must enable the user to repeat calculation without restarting the application. The key point of the question is the program must be able to perform error control. Means that if the user enter wrong number or invalid choice, such as odd number, symbol, or character as first or second input value, the program is able to prompt and get the value for first and second input value again. With this, the program will only continue the calculation process with accepted permit value. Next, let us move to the pseudocode part of the question. First, we start the program. Then, we declare first input as num1, second input as num2, check, answer as ans, option, and operation as variable. Then, we start a do-while loop. First, we prompt and get num1. After we get the num1, we use check equal to num1 remainder 2 to check whether the number is an even number or not. We perform error control by using a while loop. While check is not 0, or num is smaller or equal to 10, or num is bigger or equal to 30, or the user is not input of integer, the program will display error message and prompt again for num1. Then we get the num1 and check again whether it is even number or not, until the number is fully satisfied the conditions. After that, we prompt and get the num2, and then we perform again the above error control method for num2 also. After num1, num2 is prompt and get, we prompt for an operation, means we ask what mathematical operation the user wants. In here, we perform another error control, which when the user is not entering either A, B, C, or D, we will display error message and ask them to input again. After that, we display num1 and num2. Then, we use switch case to switch to perform the operations that the user wants. In case of A, is plus. In case of B, is minus. And in case of C, is multiplying. In case of D, is dividing. Then we display the answer. After that, we prompt and get the option whether the user wants to repeat the calculation or not. In here, we perform the error control again, and the user is not entering yes for Y for yes or N for no. We will display error message and prompt them to enter their option again, and then we get their options. Then we end the do-while loop with the condition option is not equal to Y. If the option is equal to Y, the do-while loop will continue to repeat and repeat until the user enter N. After that, we end the program. Next, let us enter the real C++ code. The real C++ code different with the pseudocode because it must have the proper header, a main function code, and it must be syntactically correct. This means the computer understands what the program say, and it must be able to perform some user-friendly message, such as greeting message and thank you message at the start or the end of the program. First, we tell the computer to include input or output stream library. Then, we tell the computer to include limits library, which the library is numeric limits types. Then, we declare num1, num2, check, ans as integer, option, operation as character. Then, we start the do-while loop. First, we prompting the welcoming message. Then we prompt for num1. In here, we perform the error control just like what we mentioned just now. What is different is in this error control here, we include two lines, which is cin.clear and cin.ignore. This cin.clear and cin.ignore is important in our error control procedure because without this code, the program will crash once the user enters wrong input. This is because when the user enters wrong input and we don't include that two lines, the computer will keep repeating the error flag because the error flag is not removed. and it's not ignore. So we must include this line where C in clear tell the computer to clear the error flag, and C ignore tell the computer to ignore the number of character and also stop ignoring after he recognized the delimiter. Then we back to the code. We do the same to the num2. We prompt and get for num2, and we perform the same error control on num2. After num1, num2 is get, as mentioned just now, we prompt for operation where A stands for plus, B stands for minus, C stands for multiplying, and D stands for dividing. When the user is not entering A, B, C, or either D, we will tell them, wrong input, please input the proper input again, and we prompt and get the input for operation again. After the operation is get, we display num1 and num2, and then we use switch case to switch to the operation, mathematical operation that the user wants to perform. After the answer is get, then we will display out the answer. After that, we will prompt whether the user wants to do another calculation or not, and they are only permitted to enter Y for yes and N for no. As mentioned just now, if they enter something beyond Y and N, error message will coming out again and ask for them to re-enter their option again. Then, if option equal to Y means the user want to repeat the calculation, we will use system CLS, means clear the previous calculation screen in order to have a nicer screen for the user. Else the user enter N, we will display thank you message. And this is the condition of do while loop. While option equal to Y, the loop will be repeating. Then we end the program. Now I will run again the program for you. Now let us try on a normal program which include the C in clear and C ignore line. If now the program prompt from num1. For example, if you enter an odd number, the program will display error message. If you enter the character which is not integer, the program will display error message also, until you enter some number that correct, such as 20. Then num1 is accepted. The program then prompt from num2. In this case, we enter 40. Then for the operations, if error control is performed here also. For example, if you put symbol here, the program will display error message and ask us to enter a correct number again. Here we use A. So the computer will perform addition calculation. Here I want to repeat the calculation again, so I press Y. Then the program will restart for you without you really restart the program. Now let us try on if we ignore these two lines. We delete these two lines and we run again. In this case, we enter something like symbol. It is wrong because it's not between 10 and 30 and it is not an integer. You see, the program will crash. So it is important to include that two lines to tell the computer to clear the error buffer. And here is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Number 2.
Hi, I'm Ming, and I will be presenting about question 2 for the assignment. First of all, we need to synthesize the question. The question requires us to create a simple calculator to calculate the frequency of each digit of an integer. So the input of the question will be an integer. So the process we are using the nested loop that apply an inner loop and outer loop to calculate the frequency. So the output that it will display the frequency from 0 to 9. Next, moving on to the pseudocode of the program. First, we start. Second, we declare variables num, I, j, frequent, and remainder as integer. Third, we initialize I as 0. Number 4, we prompt and get the num from the user. Number 5, we'll use the while loop for the condition I less than 0. So for the outer loop is for the calculation of the number digit from 0 to 9. So number 5.1, it initializes the frequency as 0. So after the calculation of digit 0, in the next we're moving to the digit 1, the frequency will repeat as the 0. So the 5.2 is j as the none. So 5.3, it will start another inner loop using the while loop for the condition j greater than 0. So we'll calculate the remainder. After j modulo by 10, it will get the remainder. If the remainder is equal to I, so the frequency will plus 1. After that, you will use j divided by 10 to give a new value to the j and repeat the calculation. After dividing by 10, after it will get the number 0 point something, just is a decimal because it's integer, so j will equal to 0, so it's not greater than 0 and it will stop and it will display the frequency of the number 0 or 1 or 2, 3, 4 and move on. So and this is the pseudo code of the program. Move on, we will discuss about the C++. We'll compile the program. This is the C++ code for the program. First, we include the IO string that is for the library of input and output. Next, we're using the namespace standard. Then we start our main program. So for first, we declare the integer num, I, j, frequent, and remainder stated in the pseudocode, and we assign I as 0. We prompt and get for the integer, and we start the outer loop for iterating from digit 9 to 0, and then the inner loop for the calculating for frequency of the digit. Here we have condition that j and as a dj divided by 10 is just for the update the loop control variable to prevent the infinite looping. After that, we will display the result for each digit. So we will repeat from 0 to 9 and I will get the result. So next, I will explain the interpretation. So for the inner loop, we are using the modulo operator to find the remainder. Why are we doing so? Just as an example, we input a number 6749302. If I divide modulo by 10, it will give the remainder 2. So next, if the remainder is equal to 2, then we could use the decision structure, that is the if else, but in the inner loop we use if. So if the remainder is equal to I, that's for the first looping, that's 0. So if the remainder is equal to I is 0, for the remainder is 2, so the frequency will not plus and the frequency will still 0. From next, we divided by 10 and it will get 67493.2, but it's an integer. We will not show the decimal places, so it will just show the 6749330, and we modulo by 10, it will not get any remainder, so it will equal to 0. For the 0, states after our I is 0, if the remainder is equal to I, the remainder is 0, the I is 0, so the frequency will plus 1. We will get a frequency of 0 is plus 1, and we move on to another calculation, and we divide it by 10, and it will give us 67493, and move on until it's 0.6. If it's 0.6, it will equal to the 0. Then for the inner looping, it will stop because j is greater than 0 and it will do, but j is equal to 0 and will not do, so it will move on to the outer loop. For the outer loop, it's just for the repeating calculation of frequency from digit 0 to 9. Next, I will show the running of the program. So here, we input a number, for example, 114580. So we'll get the result like this. So there is 2 1 here, so we'll get the frequency of 1 is 2. There is 1 4, so frequency of the 4 is 1. There is 1 5, the frequency of 5 is 1. There is 1 8, the frequency of 8 is 1. There is 1 6, the frequency of 6 is 1. There is 1 0, the frequency of the 0 is 1. So we'll reach the end of the question 2. Thank you.
Number 3.
Hi, now we are in question 3. I'm Neng and I will be presenting these questions. We can see from questions it requires us to do a differential equation expression, which expresses the amount of timber standing and also the refloration rate. Now we come to the pseudocode of these questions. First, we start with start. Next, we initialize the count. Then we prompt and get the refloration area, the last standing area, rate, and the year from the user. Then it comes to the looping part for these questions. Where count is smaller than equal to year, we will perform the calculation, and also we will print the outputs, and then our counter will be plus with 1. And then we come to the end of this pseudocode. Now we come to the C++ code for these questions. First, we start with the include library, then the using namespace std, the main functions, and then we declare the variable first, and then we prompt the input from the user here, 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 and here. And then we come to the part of our looping of these questions. Then here is our calculations for the requirement, and then we print the output for the user here. After that our counter will be plus with 1, and then come to end of these questions. The more details of how of this program run will be prepared in the next slide. Now is the C++ program for these questions. First, as stated in the previous slide, we include the library using the namespace, then main functions, and we declare the variable. The reason why we initialize the count equals to 1 is because we assume it starts from 1. And when user is input for 20 years, it means that it will come with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and until 20 years. Then we prompt the input from the user here, refloration, last standing, rate, and also the year from the user. Then it's the looping part for these questions, and then the calculations, and we print the output for the user here. Then I will start to try to run this program. So please enter the total area. So in the given questions, we are required to input 1400, then 2500, at the rate of 0.02, and then the years of 20 years. And yes, this is my program output for this question. For more better understanding, I will be explaining using words. First, we initialize the 1 count equals to 1s. Then we come to the looping part of these questions. When user inputs the year is equal to 20, it means that 1 is smaller than or equal to 20, and it will start with the calculations part. And then it will go into the count with count plus 1, count plus plus, we write here. And also we will get the output, C out, and we will print all the requirements for the user. And then next the loop begin again because it's 2 is smaller than equal to 20, and repeat all the thing inside the part. Then 3, 4 until 20. After the part 20 and is true, and we loop, and then it come to 21 equals to 20, and here is a false. Then it will close this looping, and it come to the end of these questions. That's all from me. Thank you.
Number 4.
Hi, I'm Xian and will be presenting about question 4. Synthesize the question. From question 4, we can see that we have to create a compound interest calculator, and 3 inputs will be needed. The first one is the initial amount, the second one is number of years, and last one is annual interest rate. There will be only one output needed, which is the final amount. Some key point of this question is that first we have to perform repeating calculation based on the number of years, and secondly we have to display only the final amount after a required periods of years but not every years. Pseudocode. Number 1, start. Number 2, we declare amount, year, and rate as our variables. Number 3, we prompt and get the initial amount, year, and rate. Number 4, we set rate equals to rate divided by 100 in order to change it from percentage to its actual value. Number 5, a for loop is used to repeat the calculation for the final amount at every year. And number 6, we display only the final amount after desired number of years. Number 7, N. So here is the C++ code. First, we'll be including the library IOStream to allow the input and output function. Next, we'll be declaring the variables, which are amount, year, and rate. After that, we'll be prompting and getting the initial amount, the year, and the rate. Next, we'll be setting a rate equals to rate divided by 100 to change it from percentage to its actual value. After that, we'll be using a for loop to repeat the calculation until the desired years. As we can see from here, we'll be initializing the counter I equals to 1, and then the condition of repeating is when I is less or equal to year, and after that we'll be passing the I. Finally, we'll be displaying the final amount after the input years. So let's see how our program runs. First, we'll compile and run it. And then to test it, we'll use the value given, 3,000 ringgit for 10 years at the rate of 5.5. So it gives us the final amount of 5,124.43, which is correct. That's all from our group. Thank you.